Okay. What was considered to be the American dream, like in the 50s
Um,
when you were young?
for a woman, like,
Yeah.
well, to get an education and go to college and get married, have children, and somehow work it out so you could have children and work at least part-time.
What did you consider to be your American dream?
I guess that was kind of mine. I knew I definitely wanted to have an education and I wanted to have a career that I could depend on if for some reason I had to provide for the family, that I would be able to do it, because that was so important to me, security.
What were you told about African Americans?
I don't remember being told anything. In fact, I don't know that I ever saw in person a black person. In high school, we had one black student when my senior year, and I didn't even wasn't in any around him or anything, so I never had any contact with them in high school. The first real contact I had was a patient. Then when I was in dental hygiene and cleaning someone's teeth.
Did you hear about the Brown versus Board of Education trial?
No.
Really? Oh. What do you remember about the segregated South? Like, did you hear much about it and like what was going on down there?
I heard some about it. I remember the Rosa Parks thing, and I remember the kids that wanted to get into school and they couldn't get in. And I guess mainly I identified with either women things or children things at that time. And I remember Martin Luther King, and I thought that it was wonderful that he came along when he did, because I felt that kept it from being an all-out war almost. And but like I said, I didn't really have much contact with black people.
Did you know many women who worked, and if they did work, what were some common jobs?
Well, my mom worked. She worked in a drugstore. She worked in a bakery. She worked in a credit department in a department store. And she sold real estate. You know, that was... And other moms... I wasn't around too many other moms that worked. Most of my friends' moms didn't work.
How much was your mom getting paid?
I don't know.
Well, not like a dollar amount, but like around the same as your dad, or a lot less?
Less than my dad.
Yeah.
And I know that they would have some fights about money. That was one of the things that they did fight about. And mainly it was my dad just could not understand where the money was going. And I know that they were giving some money to my grandparents, and that was my dad's folks. And money was kind of an issue.
I think it always has been.
Yeah.
What were people saying about communism? Or was it not really talked about because it was a touchy subject?
I don't remember my folks saying much about it. I just remember that it was, really bad. And I remember the McCarthy hearings a little bit. And I thought that was so ridiculous. But I don't remember a lot being said about communism. I just remember that it existed and that it was bad.
was the next question. Do you know what McCarthyism is?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think it was terrible. I think he came along at a terrible time to do that.
Did you hear much about the Cuban Missile Crisis? Obviously.
Yes. My husband at the time and I were living at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. He was in the Army, and I knew that there was a lot of trouble over there. And he came home then one night and said that he didn't know if he was even going to be able to come home, that he had to pack up and be completely ready to leave. And the post was put on what's called a red alert, where we couldn't go anywhere or do anything, because I guess they figured all these troops are going to be leaving, and then at the last minute they didn't have to. So I remember that.
So he had to pack up in case he had to go to Cuba?
Yeah. He had to get all of his gear ready and get everything ready to move out.
I'm assuming that scared you.
Yeah, well, it did when I heard about it. I didn't know about it. All I knew was the post was on red alert, and I didn't know what red alert meant. And, it was just a scary, scary time. So all of us wives just kind of banded together to try to glean onto any information that we could.
Do you agree with the plan of action President Kennedy took to stop the Cuban Missile Crisis? Do you remember what he did?
Not really. I just remember that it was all kind of taken care of. It was all, and that I was really, really grateful for.
Do you think an invasion of Cuba would have been better since communism would have most likely been eliminated from the Western Hemisphere?
I had never thought about that, but I'd say no.
And then what were you doing when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated?
I was over at my mom's, and the television was on, and all of a sudden it came on that he was shot, and then it went through the whole thing of them going to the hospital and the whole thing. And then I remember when because everything on television then was, of course, about this. And I remember then when Lee Harvey Oswald was shot, they showed that because that was on television, so I saw that. So I remember quite a bit about it.
And then this is the last question. What has been your favorite decade that you have lived through, and why? And it doesn't have to be the decade that we've been talking about.
I had an awful lot of fun in the 50s. It was, as much as I felt like I wasn't popular, and which I wasn't, and different things, I just had a lot of fun. And I didn't have to work very much. I did work when I got to be, I don't know, was I senior in high school, junior, senior in high school. But I just had a lot of freedom to have fun. Ice skate in the winter, swim in the summer. We lived just a couple of blocks from a lake. And I had a couple of really, really good friends, and we just had a lot of fun together.